Is that you?
This is the review of Demon Slayer Mugen Train. No spoilers. If you're familiar with My Check Waifu, we have a patented review scale that goes a little bit something like this. We take 5 categories. We rate them individually using the 20-point scale. So 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, all the way up into 10, 20-point scale. And after we rate all 5 categories, we then combine all of those categories together and to give us our overall score for each person. And then we bring those 2 scores together to give the overall final score for whatever we're reviewing. In this case, Demon Slayer Mugen Train. So where do you want to start off, Tel?
Let's go with where we both kind of get a little bit of a difference, and that's sound design.
Copy that. What do you mean by a little bit of a difference?
So you watched the dub.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the sub.
Mm-hmm.
So we get a little bit of difference in terms of like how the voice actors were, but everything else should be the same.
Absolutely.
So where do you sit on well, let's see. Let's look at this. My idea of the sound design, there was a lot of it was just really, really good, especially for...
Yeah, before we get to that, sorry, real quick. So one of the 5 categories is... The 5 categories are, I should say this first, animation, sound design, pacing, plot, and characters. So we're going to start off with sound design, like Tel said, and that includes the soundtrack composition, sound effects, and how well the sounds tied into the visuals. So keep that in mind when we're reviewing this. Sorry about that.
Right. So overall for sound design, like the voice acting to me was the best part of it, especially towards the more emotional scenes. The emotional scenes really, really hit hard for me. Now, when they are fighting and you hear the swords swooshing around and the train moving, and when they were going into the dream world and they kind of, you're in the world with the snow and whatnot. A lot of that really, like in terms of the sound, to me, they paid a lot of attention to detail. Just wasn't like the best I've seen, but it was still really good. So I gave sound design an 8.5.
Okay. Yeah. So again, like as he stated, I watched the dub. Okay. Now, those of you who are familiar with us, with the review system, we don't really rank the voice acting a part of the sound design, but I am going to mention the dub voice acting. And me not being a sub elitist or anything special like that, the dub, if you close your eyes, it was good. If you didn't know who was talking, what character was who, the actors performed well. I want to get that clear. The actors performed well. Tel said there were some emotional scenes. They performed that shit well, but it just opening my eyes and looking at the characters, and when it comes out of their mouths, it did not feel right. Now, I want to state that it was the 3 main characters who sound the absolute worst for me. Mm-hmm. Everybody else, side characters, villains, sounded great, which was weird to me because normally it's the opposite. The side characters was fucking phenomenal. They had Matthew Mercer as the head of the Demon Slayer Corps. So the dude with the veins and shit. So he fucking killed it. Obviously, it's Matthew Mercer. He was, he had a very short scene. But their fucking flame pillar, amazing, fucking amazing voice actor in English. Like I was shocked. I'm like, oh shit, he's actually really fucking good. He's killing it. But everybody else, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Tanjiro sounds fucking awful. It just don't work. But outside of that, music, beautifully done composition. Like seriously, the music was spectacular, and it was a more emphatic sound design than it was in the show, obviously because it was movie budget quality. Right. And then some of the sound effects that happened between the fights, fucking incredible. Like Fire Force incredible. For me, it was a lot better than it. And again, these are theater thoughts, so it's a little bit harder to wrap my head around because obviously basses hit, shit was louder.
That Dolby Atmos and
of course, right. With that into consideration, I'm going to give it an 8.5 myself. I'm right there with you. Like it wasn't Fire Force, but there was scenes that had Fire Force quality-esque.
Right.
But it wasn't that standoutish. Beautiful music though.
Yeah.
Carried by the music.
But it was also it was a movie, right? So you expected the music to be a lot more impactful than if you're watching a regular series. Yeah. So I agree. The music was on point for it, but there's just other stuff it was okay.
Yeah, right.
What's the next one you want to do?
Let's do something that was weird for me, and I'm gonna say plot. The plot obviously takes place right after the end of season 1 of Demon Slayer, so it like literally picks up the continuation from that. And again, I'm not going to go into details or spoilers of the plot yet. That's after this review. But there was a part of the plot that came in out of fucking nowhere that did not make any sense. It felt like it was a deleted scene somewhere that didn't bridge kind of what happened, and that's the final fight. Why did it happen? Who decided that it was going to happen? Like, it felt like something missing. It was a gap in that, which felt weird. Before that, the plan of the antagonist was strong. He had some motivations, but this goes into like the character problem in Demon Slayer. Sometimes they don't fully deliver on relatability.
Yeah.
So the plot is the overall story and how it was written and how the story resonated with us as a viewer. Yeah, for me, it was cool. Like it was good. I just didn't fucking understand one gap in there that had me think like, what the fuck? Why did that happen though? You know what I mean? It was just one piece. Outside of that, enjoyed it all. I fucking love this story. Like way better than I did almost any other story in Demon Slayer, to be honest. I give this story a 9. Minus if that one plot hole wasn't there, it would be a 10 for me. Story had me captivated the entire time. Jaw to the floor. Emotional. It was very emotional. And yeah, I think this was one of the stronger stories in Demon Slayer for me.
So I agree that it was about the similar plot holes, and it almost felt like where they inserted that specific issue you were speaking of, to me felt like it made the villain that felt like it was supposed to be the main villain, the whole title villain, like a secondary villain almost. Like our Mugen trained villain wasn't the main villain anymore. And yeah, while I do think that final fight was cool, incredible, it took a lot away from the credibility of what we saw, but also like kind of gave the other credibility, but still lost his credibility as well. Yes. So there was kind of like too many levels in that for me. A lot of what happened on the train I thought was really cool.
Fantastic. Yes.
I wish that they would have given that main, what felt like was supposed to be the whole title of the movie. Wish they would have given that one a little bit more, like, I guess, more to it. Yeah. You know? So I gave the plot an 8 out of 10. So yeah.
I completely understand it. Why. I just felt the story just resonated with me a lot more than I ever thought it would.
I mean, no, I agree, especially like in their personal dream worlds, like Rengoku's dream to me. Fire, literally, like figuratively. This man can't even find happiness in his dreams for real. Crazy. Bro. All right. Let's go to characters.
Man, to be honest, this solved a big problem for me that I had with Tanjiro. I always since the show, since I started watching the show, I always feel like Tanjiro was just kind of like bland. Outside of like the first episode, I feel like he was just kind of a dull main character who was, I'm good, so I'm gonna do good. I'm pure, so I'm gonna be pure. Yeah, I'm just kind of just rocking with it. And again, characters are reliability, overall development, growth of the characters, and were they memorable? This one literally opened up my eyes to Tanjiro as a character. His development, his again growth, and he was literally the character in
the
this
focal point. He was everything.
Yeah, and I felt it's crazy because again, we're gonna get into it in the spoiler talk, but there was one scene that was reminiscent of another one of our favorite shows of all time that blew me all the way the fuck back. And I'm like, I know
exactly what you're talking about.
I know you know what I'm talking about. I respect him so much more now than I've ever have in past. Tanjiro is a better character for this movie. He's a stronger character for this movie, and he's a much more likable character for this movie. So for me, the impact of the characters of this movie, Zenitsu still trash to me outside of him, thank God, being asleep for most of it. Inosuke
made him good.
exactly that's what made him good. Inosuke, fucking phenomenal the entire episode. He's one of my favorite characters in the entire show. And then obviously the Hashirama, fucking fire, pun intended. He's incredible. So and that point that you made about him in his dream world, the fact that he still always was smiling almost no matter what, with that, fucking it resonated with me so well. So for me, the characters is also a 9.
So
the characters imply kind of carry this movie. Well, I'm not gonna say that.
Yeah, because there's one more
part. I'm tripping.
The characters to me this was one of the better showing for the characters for Demon Slayer. So I agree with you. I actually also agree that Zenitsu is very weak in the entirety of the movie. He had his one moment. His dream world, though, I thought was hilarious.
Straight up.
I was like, I laughed out loud. Also, Inosuke's dream world was fucking also hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just felt creative, and it felt like these are who these characters are, right? So those were actually very good character building moments to like see inside the mind of these characters. But then you go into like Tanjiro's character world or his dream world, and it was like
so strong.
It was like when they got to like his soul part, the vibrancy and that shit just hit home. And we'll talk about that a little bit more because there's a specific part of that just really resonated with me as well. Rengoku, 100% an amazing character. And even like the surprise villain at the end, I kind of liked his character as well. Just like the overall tenacity and willpower of that character to me just seemed amazing. Tanjiro showing at the end, like his moment where he had to yell.
Dude, the dub, if you close your eyes, that dub voice actor killed that shit.
Killed it. Bro, I believe you. I believe you because I was feeling it. I was in the mood too. I gave the characters a 9.
Yeah. Fire, man. Fire. Next, I feel like we should go to the pacing, episode to episode, or in this case, moment to moment. The strength and the continuity and how the story developed and unfolded as the movie went on. You want to start?
You want to start this one? Okay, I'll take it. Let me take it because the pacing to me was one of the weaker parts.
Yes,
for me. I understand this is supposed to be like an entire arc. It felt like it fit well into a movie, but there were parts of it that just felt slow. Like they didn't need to necessarily be there, or like the pacing was inadequate. Like there were some moments when I felt like they were supposed to be sad, but then sometimes it felt like a little dragged, or other moments where I just felt like we just didn't necessarily need the entirety of that whole scene. It wasn't the worst pacing I've seen. It just was slightly above average in my opinion. So I gave the pacing an 8. because it was just like, it was good. It wasn't horrible, but it was just like, for how well everything else performed, the pacing stood out to me as like, they could have given us, like I said, what I wanted more of was they could have given us more of that demon train fight, making that seem like that character was more significant by how they showcase things. It's more or less, I guess, how I feel. And given the characters, I guess, more overall pacing, like the moments for the characters to really shine, like we only really had I guess we had 3 characters really shine in this like they were supposed to. But I guess they could have given that spread that time out a little bit better to make it not feel like this part was meaningless, but it was long into this part that came out of nowhere. I guess is kind of how I feel. It's almost like kind of how I feel about the plot.
Yeah, for me, the pacing is where I was I kind of categorized that final fight. It's kind of where I categorized the pacing being the problem for me, because it kind of, and to me personally, tells a little bit different clearly, but I think the beginning of this was the perfect arc to make a movie, because episode to episode it should be way too slow. But I think as a movie as a whole, it was perfectly paced at the beginning, from when, you know, they're on the train, you know, the situation happens, and then they dream. That pacing to me was perfect. Everybody got their equal time. Obviously, main character a little bit more than the others.
Yeah. And
then when a fight happened, it felt like that was rushed to get to that other fight that just happened to pop up out of nowhere. The second half of the movie was where the pacing became a problem for me, and that's why I rate the pacing a 7.5, but the story a 9, because the story was fucking great, but the pacing of that second half of the movie was kind of like bang, bang, bang. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which kind of threw off a lot of the movie. But I do think this movie, there would be no better way to do it. Right. Well, obviously there was some better way to do it. Just make the movie a little longer. And I feel like they were afraid to do that, so they cut out some stuff. And that screwed the pacing all the way up for me. They could have made this a 2.5 hour movie. I think gave it another 30 minutes. Maybe, you know, we learn why they decided to do what they did, or, you know, send who they sent, I guess, in this particular case. It didn't vibe right with the pacing, because it just felt definitely sped up at the end there. So for me, that's why I got a 7.5. All right, last but certainly not fucking least, the easiest part of the rating: animation, art style, visual, direction, scenery, overall viewing experience. It's a 10. I'm not even fucking.
There's no real reason to talk about it.
There's no fucking reason to even talk about it anymore. It's a 10. And I think we both give it 10s, right?
Yeah, we on that same page.
Okay. So while Tell tallies up the scores for each of us, I just want to say subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. We appreciate that. Link will be in the show notes. And then I promise Rob J that I was going to get a Spotify playlist done. It's not going to be done this week, sadly, because I forgot about it. But I will make sure we get Spotify playlist with all the lo-fi joints that we use during the break, all in one spot for you, so you can hear it all. The playlist is going to be so fire. It's going to be incredible. Looking forward to it. And also, I'm looking forward to Demon Slayer season 2. For fucking sure. But after we get this score, we're going to go ahead and talk full spoilers. Man, I've been fucking teasing myself with these spoilers, but I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about it.
So we gave this series, well, Polo gave it a 8.8 out of 10, with a 10 in animation, 8.5 in sound design, 7.5 in pacing, 9 in plot, and 9 in characters. It got an 8.7 out of 10 from me, with a 10 in animation, 8.5 in sound design, 8 in pacing, 8 in plot, and 9 in characters. Which overall is 8.75 on the Mic Check Waifu scale, which actually puts it right, basically right next to its original score, 8.8.
Yeah. Right below, what was it, 8.75?
Yeah, 8.75.
So above Erased, below fucking Beastars. Jesus Christ. Okay, so let's talk about our
animation was a 10.
Let's talk about our rated anime. We have 22, 91 days. Banana Fish is number 20. 91 days is not 6.4. Banana Fish is 7.3. Dr. Stone is 7.8. My Hero Season 4 specifically 7.9. Gangsta 7.95. Chivalry of a Fell Knight 7.95. Bungo Stray Dogs 8.4. Darwin's Game at number 14 at 8.5. Made in Abyss. Shout out to Blanda Made in Abyss. Number 13 is at 8.5. Steins Gate 8.65. Erased 8.75. Demon Slayer Mugen Train movie 8.85 or 8.75. Beastars 8.85. Demon Slayer 8.8. Vinland Saga 9.25. Grimgar 9.3. Promised Neverland 9.3. Fire Force 9.35. All right. Fire Force 9.35. MTC series. What is that? Do we both forget? It's high as fuck.
Hold up.
What is MTC? Series?
I don't know. I ain't put that in there. There's got to be something.
MTC series 9.45. I don't remember. Fuck. Oh, Clannad 9.8 at number 3. Jujutsu Kaisen.
My Teen Romantic Comedy.
My Teen Romantic. I'm fucking drunk. Okay. My Teen Romantic Comedy series, because we rated the series as a whole 9.45. Yes. Definitely worth. Real good rating.
Yes.
We're tripping. Clannad 9.8. Jujutsu Kaisen 9.86. Shout out to Noxy PM. Number 1. Astro Lost in Space at 10.
You're now tuned into Mic Check Waifu Waifu.